BIDI, Belgium, October 16, 2019. Well, BIDI is with you, and he greets you. I am speaking again, at this moment, because I am delighted to see what is happening on the theatre stage of this world, where more and more of you have been living, checking, everything I was able to tell you when I was in my body, and since I have been speaking, for 7 years. So I'll answer your questions. I will take this opportunity in passing to give some elements of your lived experience that is unfolding right now, for many people on this earth, allowing you to enlighten yourself even more, to adjust, and to put you in the best possible position to witness and light the end of the myth of creation, and to see for yourself that all this has been only a dream. First of all, I'm listening to your first question. Brother, can you give us some advice on how to live this agape in our daily lives, in our work environment, or with our family? Thank you. Agape does not care about the circumstances of your life, because when you're agape, your life, and no circumstance of the theatre scene, can have the slightest consequence on what you live. Wanting to adapt what you experience in agape to the circumstances of the theatre scene is absolutely not possible by any effort or will. You just have to remain calm, in the inner silence of the one who embraces and accepts, without question, in order to see for yourself, for each of you, that the intelligence of life and light will always be more consequent than anything you can think, imagine or do, even in the areas of daily life. I remind you that you have nothing to think about, that, above all, you must remain in this state of welcome, of acceptance, which is the true silence. It is not a question of no longer living, it is precisely a question of facing all the events of daily life in this particular state of receptivity, welcome, transparency, and this will become more and more evident every day. In everyday life, there is no technique, there is no posture, there is no energy or vibration that holds, only your presence, your embrace, your transparency and your humility will be your guides. And you will be able, as is the case now and every day more and more easily, to identify the moments when you believe you're a person, and the moments when you are in the truth of life. Everything else is just mental strategies that have nothing to do with evidence and simplicity. You no longer need to burden yourself with systems of protection, alignment or anything else, just be present in embrace and humility, without claiming anything, and the intelligence of life and light will be your daily lot. It is through these comings and goings, as your countless others to live, whether it is through physical or organic disorders, through mental disturbances, stress, depression, anxiety, whatever, that you make the difference between what is the theatre scene, what is if you prefer the actor, and what is the order of the unchanging truth. You don't have to make any effort. It is rather the order of relaxation, of unconditional acceptance, that reveals this absolute, unconditional, timeless love. You are space, you are no form and yet you are all forms. Your body form can no longer fool you about this. Whatever is happening in your body now, in your head, even in the vibratory processes, is only the alchemy of the light itself, on which you must understand that you can do absolutely nothing to find a gate that you are. It is a gate that finds you, it is not you who can find it, it will never be a quest, never a search, and never something difficult. You have to admit that it's very simple. From the moment you let go of any pretension at the game, to want to change your current circumstance, by simply letting it pass through you, because the embrace and acceptance, in silence of thoughts and emotions, in non-reactivity, places you directly in agape. It is up to you to check it for yourself in your daily life. You have nothing to run away from, you have nothing to reject, you just have to be there, and let what happens as mere observers or witnesses unfold. You're right behind or just before. Let it be what it is. When I was incarnate, I called it divine indifference, which can indeed resemble indifference or selfishness from the outside, but it is exactly the opposite. It is in the moment when you are present, beyond any qualification, in the full and complete acceptance of what is happening in each act and each event in everyday life, that agape is found. You have nothing to explain, you have nothing to understand. I remind you that understanding is the lived experience and nothing else. As long as you hope to change through a process of consciousness and energetic, vibratory or other positioning, you are not there. The only way to be there is, above all, to embrace, accept, let the crossing take place on its own, and the intelligence of light and life will fully possess you, and you will realize that you are that, and not that character who gestures, claims, or wants to achieve any goal whatsoever. This is how your daily life is there to show you in every circumstance, happy as well as unhappy. It makes no difference, but it is precisely what the intelligence of light is proposing to you at this moment, certainly triggering a kind of confrontation between the vital fire of the ego, of the person, and the igneous fire of the intelligence of light, which has no use for your gestures, because I remind you that you are this intelligence of light, and nothing else. Let be what is superabundant today on the surface of this earth, everything else is just ego games. Keep your ego to drive a car, to apply your care techniques, but don't involve a gape. A gape is looking for you, you can't look for it, it's a gape that finds you. From the moment you accept and understand this, today, in the days, weeks, that will take place on the theater stage, I guarantee you that you will live it. But if you put in front of your questioning, your interrogation to know if it is good or bad, or adapted or unsuitable, you will achieve nothing, and the friction fire between the vital fire and the igneous fire will take on considerable proportions. This has been explained by the commander. It can even go as far as organic diseases, extremely violent pain, extremely strong mental disturbances that make you think you are going back in time. This is not the case. It is the game of the intelligence of light. Accept it and, above all, check it for yourself. You have nothing else to do. Everything you think you have to do comes from yourself. A gape has nothing to do with you, even if it is expressed through you. You're in, you're not out. The world is in, it's not out. Everything you see outside, everything that is sensitive, everything that is perceptible, is only a form of projection of consciousness, whatever it may be, and which is ultimately only a disease. This disease, as I said, is fatal, and that is exactly what you are all living through, no matter where you are on this planet. I said it when I was incarnated. At the end of my incarnation, my words cannot fail, and today it is up to each of you to verify it. It's a very easy thing to do. Remember, the intelligence of light, the unity, the presence, the infinite presence, the absence, the absolute does not need you, quite the contrary. Nor do you have to fight, to oppose yourselves, to fight yourselves. You are the intelligence of light, and I repeat, whether it is through the circumstances of your lives, whether it is through your body, whether it is through all the existing relationships between two individuals, they are there only to make you discover the truth. You can do nothing about it, you can't change anything. I said it and I repeat it, what must be will be, what must not be will never be, whatever you do and whatever you say. Accept this, you live it and you have proof of it. But as long as you wander inside yourself, as long as you weigh the pros, the cons, the good, the not good, you're only going astray, especially now. The intelligence of the light is such, by the adamantine particles of which the commander has spoken at length to you and also that peoples of nature, that is what you are confronted with. And even if there is resistance, and especially if there is resistance, whether mental, at the level of the body and in all areas of your life, remember that you have nothing to do, even if you have to act, but above all, you have to embrace humility, simplicity, and you are immediately free. Don't believe me? Everyone has the same possibility of living it, whatever the state of your body, whatever the state of your wallet, whatever your loneliness, whatever the sufferings, whatever the mind, they are only pretexts that you yourself have written. There is no point in explaining it, there is no point in understanding it, the important thing is to live it and let it pass through you. And instantly, without delay, without time, you are free. Check it out. You will have the same opportunity to check it, with wife, children, profession and anything else. There is no attitude to look for in everyday life. Of course, you need your body to drive, you need some knowledge to work, but don't ask yourself these kinds of questions. Simply be present, lucid, accept, even embrace the unacceptable, even the detestable. That is precisely where your resolution lies. And you will instantly discover the joy of agape, of the naked consciousness, and you will no longer be fooled, neither by the actor of the theatre scene, nor by the spectator, nor even by the theatre. This has been explained by the elders for a very long time. The more the chaos on earth grows, the more joy you will be in. I act today, that if somewhere in your life, there seems to exist a chaos of any kind, accept it and you will be enjoying the same way. It is not a vain promise, it is not a belief, it is something to be applied. Do it. Do it. That it concerns your body, embrace yourself, embrace your suffering. It is not masochism, it is simply the proof of the resilience of the light that you are, which will put an end to this said suffering. But you will be able to do it less and less by yourself, whatever you think, and even if you find ways to resist, to oppose, you will only find that from day to day you are getting worse. This has been explained dozens of times. Love or suffering. No suffering, whatever it may be, is a punishment. No suffering, of any kind, is a reward. It is just the game between the intelligence of light and what you still believe to be as a character or spiritual being. All this belongs to the disease of consciousness, all this is a scam. Not only spirituality, but even your daily life, live it with humility, put acceptance and embrace in front of it, do the same for your illnesses, your sufferings. When you do agape resonances, 2 by 2, or in a network, that's what happens. You do not need to know who the other is, his history, you do not need to know his suffering, you embrace it unconditionally, and you realize at that moment without any effort, simply by the Spirit, that it is already in you, and that is enough to heal it. Each of you can verify this, and I think Ebba has you verify it in all his meetings. It's the same thing. Be simple, be present and you will live agape and you will be free. Acceptance, welcoming, is an inner emptiness. The true inner silence is that, it is not going to meditate or withdraw into a cave, it is precisely being fully present. And through this full presence, you effectively discover agape and absence. You can only recognize yourself, you can only find yourself, you can only accept yourself in the absolute truth. No relative truth, no belief, no resistance, can hold in this kind of surrender of consciousness, in this kind of surrender to any will, to any imagination to want to evolve or transform itself. Everything is already there, in you, and I would even say outside on the stage of this world. Look from everywhere, you can see the chaos that has begun, which is getting worse every day, every minute. Whatever it is, the only purpose of what it is unfolding is your freedom, your reunion, the fact of remembering who you were before creation, that eternal absolute I who has never moved. The universes will pass, the whole creation will pass, that you will always be there. And you will live when you need neither form, nor world, nor consciousness. You cannot understand it from the intellect, you cannot understand it from the self, nor through energy, but simply through this ultimate reversal of consciousness to a consciousness, to the heart of the heart, and nowhere else. Do it, spontaneously. There is no need to think, there is no need to understand, since it is by living it that you will understand it. Before you can only be in misunderstanding, in questioning. As soon as this is lived, there can no longer be any questions about who you are, not even about tomorrow, not even about yesterday. This is freedom. Everything else today is a chain of spiritual scams of karma, of projections of consciousness into any future. Be available, and you will be autonomous, and you will experience in and out of freedom, whatever the future of your life, your body or this world. You will no longer be fooled, you will no longer be affected, and you will remain more and more easily in this kind of inner silence, acceptance and unconditional embracing of all that is. You will be free. You already are. It is simply your positioning of your conscience that is opposed to it. And the more you oppose it by acting as before, the more suffering you will live through, but you have nothing to do with it. Do not seek guilt or responsibility, neither nor outside. It is only the game of consciousness, a morbid game. Wake up. There is no effort to be made, it is much more in the order of relaxation and total and unconditional acceptance of what is. This is the ultimate key, beyond the keys that Eba has given you, with the last name, the first name, with the vibratory aspects, with the techniques without technique. All this has been done to bring you closer to this moment, to this present moment, present from every moment to every moment, at your disposal and in abundance. It is your conscience that hides it from you. You are neither responsible nor guilty, you just have to agree to live it. Hear what I'm saying. It is the best proof that you can live, it is the best way, and the fastest and most direct way to remember who you are, in absolute truth, and not in the game of the simograms of creation, in its worlds and dimensions, but before that. And at that moment you will live joy, which depends on nothing, no matter what happens in your life or in your body. I remind you that when I was incarnate, I died of cancer, which, moreover, must have caused intolerable suffering, since I refused all treatment and care. This did not prevent me from being what I am, the disease did not affect who I am. But you know very well, all of you, without exception, that when you still believe somewhere that you are a person, there is necessarily suffering. Look around you at the brothers and sisters who have rediscovered who they are. Of course, they may have symptoms, of course, they may have pain, but it will never be a suffering, much less a questioning. This will always be an acceptance. This is freedom. Everything else connects you and will connect you more and more tightly, if I can say so, until you let go of your conscience, your history, your pretensions, your projections, your explanations. There is nothing simpler. And if your life whispers to you that it is not true, it is only an alibi for your mind, that's all. Override it. Let yourself go through. Let it be what it is, and you will become, as Eba says, or as the commander says, life, and no longer just your life. You will really be free inside and out. The world is consumed, in the same way that some of you are consumed by this life. There is joy, not in a satisfaction with your life, your wallet, or the acquisition or realization of I don't know what. This does not prevent you from achieving what you want, but put simplicity first, put embrace first, put acceptance first, even if afterwards you will have to act, for this body or for a situation. Avoid the reaction, always put the unconditional embrace in front of it, especially in events that you do not understand, where there is no explanation for the conscience. That is precisely where the resolution is. I don't ask you to believe me, I repeat it every time, but you will have the same opportunity to experience it. There is no age that holds, there is no supraconsciousness that holds onto that, there is no energy or vibration that holds onto that. Do you want to be in fear or do you want to be in love? It's up to you. One more question. Brother. Hello BIDI, I no longer have any momentum, neither to read nor to listen to the information received through channeling. Is that normal? Good, you're free. Laughs. I answered. Brother. Hi BIDI, I love you. Can you give advice to all those who are still living with strong vibrations and pulsations, sometimes accompanied by great anxiety? Thank you. Because you don't let yourself be crossed. Your consciousness is still, as in the learning stage, focused on your vibrations. It was a construction that was carried out, decided before creation, by those who then became the Melchizedecs, the stars, the interveners of AYOUN dimensions up to the archangels and beyond. Just be present, there is no better advice, there is no better solution. If you're affected, in an exaggerated way, or which seems too important to you, by the consummation of love, by the vibration, by the fire of the heart, by the energies of the head which descend, by the light, you are consuming yourself. But if you bring your consciousness on it, that is to say on perception, obviously, it will increase, you increase resistance, you increase the vital fire. It is a question of welcoming, of not reacting thereto. You're not the vibration, that's always been said. Vibration is consciousness, but you are anterior to consciousness. Do not play with your conscience anymore, or even with your supraconsciousness, for yourself. Stop focusing on vibrations, which is the question. It's perfectly formulated. From the moment you conceive and perceive these vibrations, you can only notice that they only amplify and generate anxiety or anguish. That's normal. It's not pathological, it's what's meant to enlighten you. Go through this. Vibrations are what they are, your personal consciousness is what it is. Your lived supraconsciousness is what it is. It allowed you to find yourself beyond all vibration and consciousness. So don't be interested in that anymore, let them live, without interfering with your conscience. Without that it will happen exactly what you all live when you put your conscience in front of it. You will be anguished. You will experience a fear of emptiness, a fear of dying that has no reason to exist, since you place yourself in consciousness, and consciousness has only one fear, that of dying. I am not only talking about personal consciousness, but even the supraconsciousness that arrived on this earth in 1984, its purpose was to make you discover supraconsciousness, to make you live it, but it was never set that it was the goal, it was a means. It is much easier today for the innocent child, the one who cares nothing, but who is completely present in his life, to be free, than the one who carries his consciousness on vibrations. We make you wear it on to activate the body of eternity. As the commander told you, the bodies of eternity are there, everywhere, for everyone, human as animals, as plants, as minerals. It is the positioning of believing you to be a conscience. I am not even talking about an ego, but simply to believe somewhere that you are a conscience, which leads to this fire, these anxieties, this fear. It is normal. The conscience does not want to die, it believes itself immortal like the soul. You're anterior to consciousness. It's that simple too. And I would even say that the more important the symptoms are, whether in the psyche, in the mind, or in the body, whether it is suffering or vibrations, they bother you today, they have been useful to you for a very long time for those who have lived them. You are the empires of light, the sowers of light. All this is over, completely over. You secret your own anguish and fear yourself, because somewhere along the line you still accept the idea of being a conscience. It is not even a problem of ego, nor of spiritual pride, it is a problem of misunderstanding. You are not consciousness, you are not vibration, you are not any form, and yet you are all forms. You are space, you are the intelligence of light, you have created all worlds, you have created all dreams, you have already lived everything in the initial moment. It is enough for you to remember this, and you can only remember it by relaxing any claim to understand, explain or transform anything. In sum, it means that there is not enough slackness, there is not enough acceptance, and there is not enough reception. If there is reception, there is a gape, and in a gape, there can be no fear at all. You can ask yourself about your life, how you will end your month, how you will live this relationship or not, but not about that. Vibration and supraconsciousness. Consciousness is vibratory, consciousness is consumed, not only the body even if you are living it, but also all the memory elements, all the elements linked to the worlds, all the galaxies are being consumed, the solar system is being consumed, and your scientists know it perfectly. There is obviously in this period of shock a kind of seizure of the collective consciousness, and therefore suffering. If you live the vibrations, if they seem so intense and cause you anxiety, it is also because somewhere you think you can act, you think you can change what cannot be changed. I repeat it for you. What must happen will happen no matter what you do, what must not happen will not happen, no matter what you do. Release all intention, release all will, release all understanding, embrace, and you will cross, and you will be in joy. It is still the idea of being a consciousness, for those who live the vibrations, that prevents you from being free. But you see it well, you feel it, those who are still too affected by vibrations. Can't you see the fears that arise? Don't you see those things that were buried, that were gone, dissolved, that are changing? It's the game of your conscience, it's not a gape, that. And if you think through your conscience or through vibrations to get out of it, you will only find that it is impossible. There is only when you release all pretensions and intentions, and all identification with consciousness. I am no longer even talking about identification with the body or form, or with this world, or with this dimension. I am talking about identification with consciousness. There can only be suffering. Happy are the simple-minded today. They are much more available for the absolute truth. You must be in a form of renunciation with regard to these vibrations. Of course, all those who eliminate vibrations have no fears, anxieties, or illnesses, or problems in the mind. What makes the difference? He who accepts is free. He obviously perceives the energies, the vibrations. It will not stop while the theatre scene is still there, but he is no longer affected. Whereas if you're affected today, it is because you are still identified with this consciousness, or this vibration. In the Absolute, there is neither form, nor vibration, nor energy. There is no world. That is the absolute and total truth. This is where agape is despite the presence of the form, and it is an invaluable gift, which was written long before creation, to allow you to find yourself, to remember who you are. You have countless brothers and sisters around you, everywhere, who bear witness to this every day, and who nevertheless live the same vibrations, the same consummation by love, but there is no fear, there is no mind, there is no anguish, there is happiness. The warp is there. It is an invitation from the intelligence of light to no longer be fooled by your own consciousness, by your own vibrations. It is as simple as that. And again, there is no need to feel guilty or to make anything or anyone guilty or responsible. Just accept what I'm telling you, and you'll like it instantly. It can't be any other way. Many of you here and elsewhere were prepared by the elders, by the stars, by the archangels, by the peoples of nature. All this has been useful, indispensable, to build, I would say, the end of all history. Today this may be superfluous. It also answers the question of the sister before who said, I am no longer interested in anything. Well, that's good. What is important today are not the channelings, it can't be any other way. That's how the agape resonance works. This is how you discover, not only the fire of the Sacred Heart, but Shanti Nilaya, the abode of supreme peace, where the consciousness is extinguished, where you see that it is a nightmare, that it is not real, and there you are free. Vibrations no longer make you suffer, they no longer disturb your inner silence, they no longer disturb your unconditional acceptance, and there you are love. Ebba told you last year, and you each are, with the same quality and intensity. You're the way, the truth and the life. You're the Alpha and the Omega. You predate all creation. It is an incredible freedom. Ask those who are living it, whatever their physical, emotional, family, societal situations, at all levels, it doesn't make any difference. Another question. Laughs. Brother, how to replace attachment with unconditional love? Silence from where the question was taken up again. Brother, how to replace? I heard you. Room. Big burst of laughter. I'm just trying to weigh what I'm going to say. Laughs. Attached to what? Attached to the dream. Attached to a child, a husband. Freedom has no use for attachment, except to be attached. Does not ask me what to do, or how to do it, since there is nothing to do. Accept your attachment, and it will be consumed. Do not try to oppose it, to fight it. You see it, you even say it in your question. You're attached, I don't know what it is, by the way. Accept to be attached and you will be detached. Laughs. You will be transparent, and therefore detached in both directions. There will be no more tasks. Laughs. Everything will be illuminated, everything will be clear, like a window that has just been cleaned. That's transparency. Who thinks they're attached? Affections, so-called family ties. Your children are not your children, any more than they are the children of the state. They are you at another time. It's the same scenario, it's the same story. Does not fight against attachment, acceptance will consume it. But if you put your mind, you see the attachment. Since you talk about it, it is seen, it remains to cross it. There's nothing to do, just agree to be tied up, and as I said, you'll be detached. It's nothing else to do. As long as you think something has to be done, well, you're in pain. Well, the consumption will amplify the fire, the vibrations will intensify. You'll have your body shaken, the fire under your feet, the fire in your ribcage, the body will tremble. Let it be what it is. There's nothing you can do, especially today. I repeat that it was you who wrote this attachment scenario to experience detachment, not by opposing it. I remind you that at the level of consciousness, at the level of mind, at the level of the person, everything you will oppose, and especially today, will be reinforced. You need to be lucid, to see what is, and to let it be. That's how you're free. Not by attaching yourself to the attachment itself, not by wanting to fight it, not by wanting to solve it, by accepting it. You have nothing else to do, and the consciousness extinguishes itself, and a gape is there, in your humanity, in your daily life, in the gaze you carry, in the love that emanates from your gaze, from your gestures, not by fighting against the character, and even less against attachments, and even less against the supra-consciousness itself. It is just a matter of remembering that initial instant of creation, prior to any world, which is nothing more than the final instant, which is lived on Earth, in all the super-universes, on the billions of planets that exist, which you. Attachment is dissolved by acceptance, by acceptance. Everything you are going to oppose from now on will be reinforced, will manifest itself in suffering, anguish, fears, until you remember. And see no punishment, see no anomaly. That's exactly what you wrote for those moments. Be lucid, be present in silence, acceptance is made, embrace is made, and naked joy without object and without subject is there. It's awfully simple. What tells you that it's complicated is history, it's mind, it's supraconsciousness, nothing else. It is no longer even an ego problem, of course, it is the attachment to habits, to automatic functioning mechanisms. You don't need to find the cause in your story, you just need to accept it. Accept the attachment, and it will be consumed by love. But if you carry your conscience on it, this consummation of love will bring suffering. Remember that consciousness as well as the ego consider themselves immortal, through karma for the ego, the spiritual ego, but even through consciousness, which is a disease. Disease consciousness does not know that it is a deadly disease, that is exactly what you are living through. The hardest part is actually to accept, to understand your helplessness. At that moment, you become a child again, you're on the way to the childhood of little Terezi. Yet she told you so much about it, in the channelings, during her lifetime. Gemma Galgani has told you so much about this consummation in the fire of love. This consummation is either suffering if the consciousness, in one way or another, captures it, and an endless ecstasy, as soon as there is acceptance. I can't be more precise and simple in words. One more question. Brother. Hello BIDI. I have a friend who should have come to this meeting, but who has been in a deep depression for a month. She feels at the bottom of the hole, can't get up, and the antidepressants are ineffective. How can I help him? What can I say to him to let go of the person? Well, you make him listen to what I just said. Laughs. On a loop. Laughs. With the volume on full, and with headphones. Laughs. I don't give him 3 hours to get out of his depression. Laughs. Brother, so his question was, when will it end? So in about 3 hours. Laughs. Exactly. This question is an illustration of what I was telling you right now. What happens to everyone, vibrations or no vibrations, energy perceptions or not, crown openings or not. It's always been explained to you. You're all free. The end of the theater scene, the end of the theater, but it is better to do it lightly than in these simulated fears, sufferings and anxieties, right? Room. Yes, thank you. So 3 hours of BIDI listening at full speed, and it's settled. Laughs. Let's keep going. Brother. Hello BIDI. The oath and promise. What is the origin of this expression and what does it mean? The oath and the promise is simply to note at the time of the omega that this omega is as much the alpha as the alpha is the omega. It is to acknowledge and live that the whole of creation is only a dream, and for some of you a nightmare, awake or not. That's all. That's all. What was the question? Laughs. Brother. The oath and the promise, what is the origin? The oath and promise was the oath and promise of the source that at the end of the game of consciousness, to find you, wherever you are on this earth, wherever you are in any world, in any appearance, in any dimension. The oath and promise is not only for the earth, which was to be liberated, but for the whole of creation and all the dimensions that were to be liberated. It is you who are the Alpha and Omega, here on this earth, in this prison planet, in which you are incarnated. It is not for nothing. All the dimensions, all the creation, all the multiverses and spiruniverses, depend only on each of you, I would even say on each of you, since it is the same. This was explained by Eber. You lived it for a year for many of you here among you, whether through the agape resonances, what you had called the perpetual bath of love, it is the same thing. We are all inextricably linked, your scientists know it. It is a total entanglement where everything is in everything, where everything is nothing and nothing is everything. That's all, and it's nothing. The oath and the promise, that's exactly what you're going through. It is the collective awakening not only of the earth, but of all creations, in all times and in all spaces and dimensions. Your scientists observe it every day, in the deep cosmos as they say. Black holes appear everywhere. They are aware, in the same way that you are aware of the black hole in the heart of the heart. It is your abode, the one from which you have never moved, whatever the sufferings, whatever the lives, whatever the dimensions, whatever the experiences. You had forgotten, and you had to forget it to solve it. Thank you, everything, and you're free. You have no choice. Believing that you have a choice is a total illusion. The events of this earth and the cosmos are in charge of demonstrating this to you with a crash. This is the shock of humanity. It has been explained in length, breadth and depth for many years ago, by Sri Aurobindo himself. Accept what is, and you are free. Refuse what is, one way or another, and you suffer. And I repeat, in all the elements and events of your daily life, of your meditations, of our agape resonances, of your, as Eber says, of your practices without practice, or of techniques without technique, this is the only goal, there is no other. The intelligence of light, in every possible way, always asks you the same question. Do you want to be the freedom you are? Whether you like it or not, it doesn't change anything, it is. You have nothing to want, you have nothing to ask, I repeat firmly, you just have to accept. Acceptance creates freedom, makes you remember the oath and the promise. The oath of the source and the promise at the first fragmentation of consciousness, this had been explained by Eber, during the resolution of the primary anomaly. He has given you many incontestable proof of this, it is now up to you to prove it yourself, not by doing it, but by accepting it. You are the light of the worlds, but you are anterior to the light. It is your last home, your first home, where you have always been, and indeed all those who live freedom can only tell you, with reason, that it has always been there, you had simply forgotten it. Christ prepared the way, Buddha and so many others, advocate of Dane to also through unity versus duality, which is not a struggle or a contradiction, and today with the evidence of agape, the evidence of freedom. And it is in the depths of chaos, especially on this earth that begins wherever you look, or whatever your country, chaos is there, really, concretely, even if your life seems peaceful to you for the moment, take advantage of this peaceful aspect to accept, and to verify by yourself what you are, beyond being, beyond worlds. You are the very substance of creation, within all the elementary particles, within the nucleus, within the cell, not only the cells that make up your body, but all the cells of all universes, all galaxies. All this is just a dream, a projection freely agreed, freely written, and where each participant in the dream plays exactly his role. There is no more divine or diabolical role, because everything is part of the same scenario you wrote. That's how you discover that your absence is freedom. That's what I called earlier divine indifference. The liveness is there. The oath and the promise, the memory is there. You are both Alpha and Omega, the way, the truth and the life, and you predate that to be that. The only proof is not in my words, it is in your acceptance and your living experience. If it seems to you that this is an effort, it is because you are not simple enough. Remember the way of childhood, remember this consummation of love where you are everywhere while being nothing. It is to believe that you are something in this world or in your consciousness that today creates suffering, nothing else. Accept this, live it, and you are free. The consummation of love will no longer be a suffering, but an ecstasy and a total rapture. Fire is a burn of love. The Commander has explained it to you, the Spirit of the Sun, the Paraclete, the choir of angels. Remember also that vibratory aspects of AYOUN itself, which invites you to this joy, to this disidentification of a form, a consciousness, a world, without fleeing the dream in which you are, because it is resolved in the dream. Even if the solution is not in the dream, you must somehow embody it totally, right here, in the present instant, not tomorrow, not yesterday. Be there, be totally there, where life has placed you. Help yourself through the agate resonances, through technique or practice without practice, but above all be available, present, and you will discover the freedom of absence where you are nothing anymore. You will witness your resurrection, your liberation. Liberation is nothing more than to stop believing that we are a consciousness or even a supra-consciousness, to stop believing that there is something to transform about it. Whatever calls resilience is exactly that. It is the moment when it seems to you to descend to the depths of suffering, misunderstanding, anguish, that you let go. Don't ask yourself what to let go or how to let go, it happens all by itself, and especially without you. This is the true freedom. You have countless testimonies on your social networks, around you, of this ineffable truth that a number of increasingly important brothers and sisters are living. Ever told you, you're Reba, you're at the origin of the dream, you're at the origin of creation, and of all galaxies, of all universes and super-universes, and of all multiverses. The entire creation is based on the heart of the heart, Shanti Nilaya. So help yourself after if you want resonances, practices without practice, crystals, whatever you want, it doesn't matter, but not to ask the crystal to, just to give you the necessary time some crutches, certainly useless, but whose uselessness you have to understand by living it and helping yourself, not by reflection, not by understanding, but by the lift. I keep repeating it every time I speak, understanding can no longer be intellectual. Intellectual understanding, of any kind, is suffering. Acceptance is resilience and freedom. Don't believe me, but live it. The living is the understanding. The lived experience of what? Of agape. May you have the fire of the heart, may you be expanded, and may you be everything, so that from the very beginning you may be living the nothing, the absolute. What the self and the spiritual pride of those who believe themselves to be a conscience call nothingness. They didn't understand anything, they didn't live anything. And what are they going to do? They're going to talk to you all the time about their eternal presence. But there is no eternal presence, only absence is eternal. That's where the joy is, nowhere else. This naked joy without object, without subject, which Eba has been telling you about. Be direct, be spontaneous. The more spontaneous you are, the more likely you are to be in the truth of the path of childhood. You have no choice. Life will show you, this world shows you. This world is both the prison and the dead end of creation, the place where you, humans, incarnated in this body, were to wake up at this very moment. Look, even at the elders on their high plane, they too were forced to do silence to live freedom. The more indifferent you are, in this divine indifference, the more you will discover lightness and joy. Accept everything, and you will go through everything. Refuse something, question something, and you will suffer. It is you who wrote this, no one else. Even those who still believe today, in the intermediate dimensions, to oppose the light, only serve it, and give themselves to it. Don't judge anything. Love cannot judge, only the conscience judges. Once again, I am not talking about ego, but really about consciousness. Consciousness passes and overcomes. It changes forms, it travels through worlds. You have already traveled them because there is no time. Even your scientists know it, but knowledge is not living it, but it is a way to acceptance, fast. What was named by the commander the event, the stasis I think, or whatever, is only that moment when you find yourself. You can only find yourself again, but recognize that it is perhaps more pleasant for the conscience to recognize yourself immediately in agape than in suffering, even if it is illusory. You really live it. You have nothing to run from. Be yourself, lucid and present at all times, and you will live that you are the nothing, that you are the absence and that you are agape. It will no longer raise any questions or discussions. At that moment, you are free. Do you have any other questions? Brother, yes. I don't think you're going to like that question. Laughs. Wait, I'll get ready. Laughs. Brother, what do you think of LSD? What the hell is that? Laughs. A substance. Oh, yes, a substance. Why would I think anything of it? Brother, that's what I thought. Laughs. I don't think so. These are so-called psychedelic experiences. They are still what we could call astralized forces, linked to the soul, linked to colors, shapes, worlds. This is not the truth. The only absolute truth is precisely where there is none of this. And today seeking this kind of experience can only take you away from the truth, silence, agape. It only distracts you from what is and never passes. So you're talking about this substance, but all the substances. I think I ever told you about them. They are important discoveries, but none of these projections, visions, worlds, forms, even the most enchanting ones are true. They are part of the dream of creation. Today, there is nothing to look for or find in this kind of experience. The most direct method is the absence of a method. The most direct way, as I said, acceptance, humility, simplicity, the way of childhood, and everything is there. Everything else is a pipe dream. One more question. Brother, my dear BIDI, it is a great joy for me to hear you every time I can't fall asleep. I listen to you and fall asleep. I thank you for accompanying us all these years. Agape. It's still better than a sleeping pill, isn't it? Laughs. I thought I was waking the dead. Laughs. It puts the living to sleep. Laughs. But that makes perfect sense. I had already explained when I was asked why I was speaking so loudly. It was indeed to smash what you think you are and who is not, because there is really a penetration or a crossing, and indeed, and many of you have seen it, for many years now. You have countless brothers and sisters who, as soon as they listen to us, me or others, fall asleep instantly. You disappear. I explained it, in 2012, about the different forms of consciousness, dream consciousness, wakeful consciousness, turiya consciousness and a consciousness. When you sleep without a dream, do you know if you were good or bad? No. There is no conscience to tell you that. You don't ask yourself any questions. There is the absolute. And when consciousness lives it when it is extinguished, at the edge of being and non-being, at the edge of space and time, you find that you are free, without form and without consciousness. And I remind you that without consciousness does not mean unconscious, but that a consciousness is indeed without consciousness, but contains, by its nature, all consciences, without exception, but that you do not need to remember it, because all this was a dream. In agape, you live it. You no longer need to remember who you were, you no longer need to remember your origins or your stellar lineage, you're the whole and you are the nothing, at the same time, beyond any time, in any space and beyond space. Moreover, you can also, for those who are overwhelmed by vibrations and anxieties, do as the sister just now who is depressed, stick my voice to you with a helmet, for 3 hours, even 5 hours. Laughs. And we'll talk about it later, if you're still alive. Laughs. You can continue. Brother, I have often been there waiting for you at 23 p.m., but you don't come. Laughs. Because you think I come from the outside. Consider that I am still in you, since I am you as you are me, and I will be there, and you will be me, and I will be you. And when you wait for me, as you say, at 23 o'clock, what happens? I give it to you in 1,000, well you fall asleep, and you say I'm not here. But of course, because I'm here because you sleep, and you're free at those times. It's your conscience that would like to see my face, or your eyes that would like to see me. Can you confirm for me for this brother or sister who asked this question, does she fall asleep after 11 o'clock, quickly? Yes or no? Brother, no, he doesn't fall asleep quickly. Oh, so he's waiting until what time? Laughs. Brother, he waits for exhaustion. Don't expect anything. When I say that I come at 23 p.m. French time, as I said in Quebec for them, there is no need to see me, there is no need to feel me, I'm already there. It was precisely to create and continue to create whatever calls an agape resonance network on a global scale. And it works quite well. But who is waiting? Who is hoping? Wait for nothing, hope for nothing, do not try to perceive, do not try to feel. Because when you do that, what happens? You project your consciousness, and, of course, you think you are waiting for me and that I do not come, until exhaustion as you say. Accept to sleep before the 4 o'clock and you'll see what happens. Let's continue. Brother, from the same person. Could you give us a hammering to boost us a little more? But I've been doing it for an hour, and for 7 years. Laughs. But the club blow comes from what happens on the stage, whether you are horrified or waiting, does not change anything. Every day, all this is amplified, all this is revealed to your senses, to your intellect, in climatic events, in societal events, in your personal events. There will be no return to a possible previous equilibrium. This world is dying out. I'd say he's waking up. And for that to happen, it must be extinguished in form, it must be extinguished in consciousness. That is what is happening. Don't look for a date, don't look for timing, it's in progress. Not tomorrow, not the day after tomorrow, but every moment. You still have the impression that you can sometimes hesitate, that you can doubt, that you can choose, but at some point, everything you call your ordinary, everyday activities will become more and more difficult for many of you. Not at the same time, so before the event. You will find that you can no longer act in such a way, that your disinterest will grow in the affairs of this world, if not in observing the final scene. Yet you will be fully present and fully free. Do not seek freedom, accept it. I remind you that it is agape that is looking for you, it is not you who can look for agape. It is agape who finds you. And remember that being liberated is not the person who is liberated, it cannot exist, it is you who are liberated from the person, it is not really the same thing. So in the same way as for this brother who has been waiting for me for several months at 11 o'clock and who says that I never come, accept that I am already there, without asking anything, and especially without waiting for anything, and you will live it immediately. You don't have to wait 23 hours. Some people see me every night, so what are you gonna say? They're lucky. That they're more advanced than you? That they are closer to the truth than you are? No, absolutely not. It is your expectation that makes a screen, it is your desire that makes a screen. Waiting and desire come from consciousness, that's all. Brother, hello BIDI. Jean Luc gave us this morning a technique to pacify and help us approach zero time. My son is depressed and very tired. He's not in the opening. Can I use this technique to help him, or is it better for him to stay in the detachment and embracing agape? Thank you. No, you can do this technique to him. It's not a technique, I think he called it the technique without technique, or whatever. It's a way in quotation marks to realign yourself with the absolute truth, to awaken the oath and promise we were talking about, to remember and to be free. There is no limit to that. But in the same way as in agape, in the resonances you make, there is no use in knowing the other who asks you. The first and last name is enough. You do not need to know his illness, if he asks you. Without that, what will happen? The consciousness will set itself in motion, without your knowledge of your own free will, the subconscious mind, to ask for healing, and there will be no agape, much less healing. The less you know about it, the more effective it will be. So yes, you can use it in all circumstances. As I said, it is a crutch, 2 crutches, but crutches that allow you to come closer to the memory of who you are, to this freedom, to this definitive awakening of the myth of creation, to the nightmare of creation, and to the disease of consciousness. Accept, there, at any moment. I am not consciousness, I am not supra-consciousness, I am nothing, I am everything. And that's all. And you are free. If you're sincere, it's immediate. It is at this point, really and concretely on a theater stage. Once again, I invite you, beyond the channelings, my voice, or the commander, to listen to the testimonies, not to hear them tell you seductive stories to listen or read, but to resonate with them, to enter into resonance, into that ultimate emotion, where tears invade you. I think Eva is planning to do this to you after my intervention. You'll see, it's extremely simple. Anything else? Brother, yes. Most of the time, I'm at peace. Often my heart is in inner joy, it dances. At times, I feel a great opening of the heart, as well as a vibratory activity at the Kidaristi gate, more subtly at the head, but my sacrum is quite active. My crowns, are they the crowns that are active? That's weird, or do we have to overcome all these feelings? The feelings will always be there. There is nothing at this level to refuse, much less to refute, just to see that they are there. But don't pay any more attention to it. What you are is right behind it, an imaginative way of talking, right after that if you prefer. It will never stop, but simply to let them cross you, to no longer identify with you, to no longer depend on you, and at that moment, peace will be permanent, whatever the vibratory manifestations may be. Whether you feel presences, whether you feel the Marian channel, whether you feel fire under your feet, fire to the sacrum or elsewhere, joy will prevail over perceptions, over sensations. You all notice, without exception for those who perceive energies and vibrations, that they change, that they fluctuate, according to the moon, according to the days, according to encounters, according to the music, according to the occupations. Who perceives this? What you are. If you perceive it, it means that you are not. It was necessary to identify you with this in order to make supra-consciousness reappear. This is all that has been done by AYOUN dimensions, and by others, all over the world. But you are none of those things. It has always been said, even by the Archangel Enlil. Consciousness is vibration. You are not consciousness, you are not vibration. That's all. As I said, in one case, the fire of consummation, this fire of love can be a suffering. If accepted, this consuming fire is an ecstasy. There is very little difference between ecstasy and suffering in terms of mechanisms. It is the two sides of the mirror, if you prefer, and it is when you see that there is no mirror, that there is transparency, that there is no reflection, that there is no projection, that there is no reflection of an image. Do not confuse the mirror with the glass. Let's continue. Brother, thank you BIDI. Brother, after the transmutation of the physical bodies that will no longer exist, what will be the form of the body of eternity and the substance of the form? Neda. Nothing. Laughs. Brother, there is still a small continuation. I don't understand what absence is. Well, live it. I said it, you can't understand it, you can only live it. Understanding comes from living it, never from the intellect, never from vibration, never from energy, once and for all. An IQ of 50 is enough to understand that. Laughs. Once and for all. Form is the prerogative of consciousness. If I live here in this 3D world, or even in the form of an archangel, you have already experienced everything in the initial moment. Time does not exist, forms do not exist. But it was necessary to tell you stories to get there, and to tell you stories, it was not us who told you stories, it was you who told you stories and wrote them, even before the first form, during the first dream of the first emanation, when the zero became one, when the absolute created itself in source, which dichotomized itself, with the primary anomaly, in Metatron, image of the source and primary anomaly. To live in the final moment, the dissolution of the primary anomaly, waking you from the dream of form, the dream of consciousness. Who still believes, among those who live agape, that they need a form, a world or a dimension? I repeat, read the testimonies, listen to them. Love does not need a world, you are love, you are anterior to any manifestation of this love. Love predates form, consciousness, the light itself, and especially vibration. And then what? Brother, I no longer have a written question. Are there any oral ones? Silence. Brother, it doesn't look like it. Is everyone asleep or not yet? Brother, maybe someone there. Brother, to leave us in beauty BIDI, could you do a resonance? But with joy. We should have started with that, you would have slept right away. Laughs. Don't ask for anything, don't expect anything. You are simply what is there, beyond your form, beyond even the ether. You are what is between each other. You are the one who observes this. You're here, and there's no one there. It's not a pun, it's not a concept, it's not an idea, it's who you are, beyond being. That's all there is to it. At the source of consciousness, you're the eternal, absolute I. I thank you for your hospitality. Do you have any other requests or questions, if we have time? Brother, there are 25 minutes left. Brother, I wanted to know if gratitude, if thanks, if blessing were a form of acceptance and welcome. Totally. And these are the main consequences of agape. In agape, everything is only gratitude, thanksgiving, a state of grace, a state beyond any state, and to be in what you have said is already to show intelligence, and can only lead you, beyond the wall of gratitude, but by the state of gratitude, to the consummation of love. Silence. Anything else? Brother, sometimes I feel like I'm in a void, like I'm above a precipice, and fear arises. What can I do about it? Drop everything. There is nothing you can do about it, it is the fear of the great void, of the great silence, of the definitive extinction of consciousness, of this disease. It is better to be confronted with it now than later. When I talk about later, it's not years from now, it's the coming weeks, in temporal terms, of this land. The great void, this precipice as you call it, is a perspective linked to consciousness, you can do nothing but accept it. If you seek to get out of it, you will inexorably strengthen it, until you accept it. When you get tired of suffering, when you get tired of being anxious, then you will accept, and the sooner the better. Everything you oppose is inexorably strengthened, there is nothing but acceptance. There is nothing but welcoming. More and more of you are seeing, living, feeling this anguish of the great void, of the black hole, but past the anguish. Once again, read, listen, hear the testimonies of those who have accepted, they are in the evidence of agape, constantly, whatever happens. They are light, they are rid of the idea of believing they are a person, they are rid of the idea of believing they are a conscience. This is freedom. It is not nil otherwise. Everything else, all these other places will only become suffering and wounds. You have no choice. As long as you think you have a choice, you are not free. Accept that you have no choice, because this great void, from consciousness, is in reality what you are, beyond being and non-being. Don't repress anything, remember that especially in this case, there is nothing to do. If there is anguish, it is a secretion of consciousness, nothing else. Let it pass, accept it, it will then dissolve without any problem. But if you do, it will get stronger. If you oppose it, it will become stronger. Be simply the spectator, the observer, and at that moment, at a given moment, you are what sees and who experiences that anguish, but who is not at all. More and more of you will be talking about this great void, this great black hole, this anguish, through the questions, through the experiences. I can only invite you to listen, read, those who have gone through this, and what is just behind, or after. This total and ineffable joy of no longer feeling like someone, of no longer having a projection, of no longer having a history, that is the true freedom, despite this world, and especially thanks to this world. Silence. Anything else? Brother, what are the causes of tinnitus and rotational vertigo? To the waddling of the earth, of the axis of the earth, to the revelation of the spirit, to the arrival of the celestial body, to the proximity of the event, to the consummation of love, to the awakening, all this at once. Sister, thank you. What else? Brother, currently, the ships are hidden by clouds. Will we ever really see them? Just at the time of the event. They too come to be consumed by the fire of love. Moreover, if you're on your social media, you'll see that more and more these ships, camouflaged in the clouds, are starting to show some details. It is a progressive approach, not physically in terms of distance, but in terms of consciousness, of prior awareness of the consumption of the whole creation. I remind you, as the commander said, let those who dream and project a new land dream. They are still identified with the consciousness. All you have to do is read, listen, hear, the one who speaks of consciousness and the one who speaks of what he is. It's totally different. The one who is still inscribed in consciousness speaks to you of a new earth, of a vision, of a new dimension. Whoever's free can't talk to you about that. He talks to you about what he is experiencing, he talks to you about freedom, he does not talk to you about a story to come or past, he does not talk to you about what he sees in the sky, or in his visions. He talks to you about this nakedness and agape, that's all. This is where you see the differences in positioning, of the one who still believes to be a consciousness, compared to the one who has lit the consciousness is a disease, really. It's a different experience. One woke up, the other one still dreams. But let the dreamers dream as the commander said. Take care of yourself, there's only you. And when I say take care of yourself, it means simply going inside to find out who you are. The commander told you that there are millions, really millions of people all over this earth who live it. Without even being able to call it agape or absolute, they have the impression of being everything, of being nothing, they no longer have any limits, they are the unlimited, even if they do not place words like Shantinalaya, ultimate presence, on them. But their words, their testimonies, resonate with the absolute truth. Silence. Anything else? Brother, we no longer have any questions. Well then BIDI will greet you, he says, see you in not long, inside you, and I greet you. Room. Thank you BIDI. Thank you. Through Jean-Luc Young. The Transformations. English translation, LMF.